Hey guys, tonight we travel back, not decades, not centuries, but tens of thousands of years, to a place where the wind never stops howling, where the ground crunches with frost even in summer, and where survival means crawling into a smoke-filled cave at night with a chunk of mammoth fat for dinner. You're in Ice Age Europe now, and spoiler alert, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, I'd love to know, where are you listening from and what time is it there? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand on a rocky slope overlooking a glacial valley, your breath curling into the sharp air like smoke from a dying fire. The sky above you is the color of lead, low and oppressive, stretching out forever. Everything smells like damp stone, animal musk, and the sharp tang of snow about to fall. The world is harsh, silent, but for the wind that never seems to stop cutting across the ancient landscape. Welcome to Europe, around 60,000 years ago, give or take a few centuries. You wear animal hides, crudely stitched with sinew and not quite warm enough. There's a chunk of frozen marrow tucked into your belt, a flint blade in your left hand, and you haven't bathed in, well, ever. You are now a Neanderthal, a full-on Ice Age nomad with a brain as big as a modern human's, but a lifestyle that would send most survivalists crying for their moms. The forest behind you is dense and dark, filled with ancient trees and stranger things. Gigantic cave lions, dire wolves with eyes like cold coins, and packs of hyenas who don't wait for you to die before they dig in. Beneath the crunch of snow and dirt, the soil tells a deeper story, a long chain of existence barely hanging on, generation after generation, napping flint and hoping their kids don't freeze. Your tribe, a small band of maybe 20 souls, is huddled around a fire below. Children wrapped in animal skins cling to their mothers, wide-eyed and silent. The old ones are few, and they don't talk much anymore. Some hum, some rock. But they've seen more winters than most, and the fact that they're still breathing gives you a strange kind of hope. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals were fully nomadic or semi-settled. But tonight, your feet are sore from miles of walking, and the cave behind you, the one just past the jagged outcrop with the soot-stained entrance, will be home, at least for a while. This isn't the clean, dramatic Ice Age of movies, where glaciers sparkle like diamonds and saber-toothed tigers leap majestically across the screen. No, this is the slushy, muddy, soul-crushing Ice Age where stepping in the wrong footprint means wet fur boots for a week. And wet fur smells like, well, let's just say it's not making the cave any cozier. You shuffle toward the entrance. It's barely high enough to crawl through, and you scrape your elbow on the way in. The floor is uneven, scattered with bones and sharp pebbles, and the air is heavy with smoke. Not the kind of smoke that makes you think of marshmallows and campfire songs, the kind that makes your eyes sting and your throat tighten. Inside, your tribe is already gathered. A fire sputters in a shallow pit, and above it, black soot fans out across the ceiling like a prehistoric galaxy. Someone's trying to dry a strip of meat on a rock, but it's not going well. The smoke makes your eyes water, and someone coughs, deep, rattling, and hopeless. You don't have medicine, you have moss, and a sharp flake of stone if things get really bad. A child offers you a handful of roasted roots. You take them with a grunt of thanks. They taste like dirt, which is fine. You've eaten worse. Outside, the wind picks up again. It moans across the rocks, finds every crevice, and slides in like a ghost made of ice. You pile more hides over the entrance, trying to keep the cold out. It doesn't work. It never really works. You shiver anyway, and your teeth start that quiet, rhythmic chatter that everyone pretends not to hear. In the far corner, someone's making tools. You can hear the rhythmic chip of being shaped into something deadly. A scraper, maybe. Or a spear point. The sound is oddly soothing, like the world hasn't changed in millennia. Because for you, it hasn't. Your world is survival, one heartbeat at a time. You settle into a spot near the wall. It's slightly warmer here, where the rocks have absorbed the day's weak sun. You chew on a bit of dried sinew, tough and flavorless, but your stomach grumbles anyway. Somewhere in the dark, a wolf howls. Closer than you'd like. Sleep comes slowly, if at all. There's always something. Wind, a crying infant, the possibility that a bear will smell your fire and come investigate. You dream of warmer places, not that you've ever seen one. Just stories passed down from older generations, whose eyes flicker with memories of green things and rivers that don't freeze solid. A fringe theory suggests Neanderthals may have developed a kind of proto-lullaby, a hum or low chant passed down by mothers to soothe babies in the dark. You listen closely. Maybe the rhythmic breathing of your companions is its own kind of music. Maybe it's enough. You wake before dawn. The cold is unbearable, a living thing that presses against your ribs and gnaws at your fingers. You stretch, stiff from the hard stone floor and curled up sleeping posture. The fire has died down to embers. Someone's already up, coaxing it back to life with a hollow reed and a lot of quiet pleading. You step outside to relieve yourself, because yes, that's still a thing. And the sunrise isn't pink or golden or inspiring. It's gray, like the belly of a storm cloud. But you're used to that. You squint into the distance, footprints in the snow, yours from yesterday. And another set, smaller, lighter, probably from the woman who scouts ahead. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals truly had gendered roles, but in your little group, it's whoever's healthy and awake who gets the job. As the sun drags itself reluctantly over the horizon, the wind carries with it the scent of something new, something musky and dangerous. Could be a predator, could be another tribe. You don't know yet. What you do know is that the cave is no fortress. It's shelter, but only barely. And out here in the Ice Age, that thin line between life and death, it's scrawled in charcoal, smeared by the rain, and redrawn every single day. The air bites harder now. You pull your furs tighter, shift your weight from one numb foot to the other, and glance back at the cave. Your people are stirring. Grunts and coughs rise with the smoke as another fire sputters to life. Someone's arguing softly over a hide blanket, probably about who hogged it, or who stepped on who. The Neanderthal morning mood is less than cheerful. You stand out here, squinting against the pale light, because you've been given a task. Keep watch. Not glamorous, not heroic, but necessary, because the Ice Age has teeth, and they don't just belong to the wildlife. You're a Neanderthal now, broad-chested, short-limbed, surprisingly strong, and surprisingly itchy. The hair on your arms bristles in the wind. You're compact, like a stone built for throwing. At a glance, someone from the future might mistake you for a particularly rugged modern human. But look closer. Your brow ridges are heavy, like sculpted armor. Your nose juts forward, big and proud, great for warming cold air before it reaches your lungs. A built-in radiator, in a way. Your brain is big, maybe bigger than any Homo sapiens you'll ever meet. But you don't worry about IQ tests. You worry about where the next reindeer herd will pass through. You think in shapes, seasons, stone, and muscle memory. Your hands are thick-fingered and dexterous, perfect for flint work, scraping hides, and wrestling stubborn meat off bones. And you're not alone. There's Olga, the firekeeper. She has a squint in one eye and a limp from a fall a few winters ago, but she can spark flames faster than anyone else. Even if her fire-starting rocks are so black with soot, you sometimes mistake them for dumb. She's mumbling to herself now, feeding twigs into the flame like it's a fussy infant. There's Bruce, the quiet one, who barely speaks but can kill a hare with a thrown rock at 20 paces. No one wants to share food with him, because he chews with his mouth open and sometimes hums the same awful two-note rhythm while he eats. And then there's Ina. You don't talk about Ina too much because looking at her too long makes your chest feel strange. She's clever. She notices the sky before you do. She spotted the cave you're all living in now, and she once made a necklace from eagle talons that everyone admired and no one dared touch. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals created personal ornaments to mark status, for beauty, or as some early spiritual expression. You just know Ina looks good in eagle talons, and you kind of hate how good. Your group is tight-knit. It has to be. You share everything. Food, warmth, shelter, and lice. Lots of lice. A fringe theory suggests Neanderthals may have used specific ash or crushed herbs as primitive insect repellent. But today, all you've got is scratching and scowling. You head back into the cave, ducking low beneath the entrance stone. The smoke greets you like an old enemy, eyes stinging again. You hunch near the embers, palms out. Your fingers feel stiff, clumsy. It's hard to believe you once snapped a flint scraper so fine it could slice reindeer hide like butter. Now, even butter would bounce off your calloused thumb. A child crawls over, a grubby little thing with tangled hair and one eye permanently squinted shut. You forgot his name, if he even has one. But he hands you a piece of hide rolled tight around something warm. You open it slowly. It's a roasted beetle. Huge, legs still attached. You don't ask questions. You chew, crunchy, nutty, slightly sour. You grunt thanks, and the child skitters off, dragging the hide toy that Ina made from a rabbit's foot and some twine. It has no face, just 3 holes poked into it. But it's loved. You lean against the cave wall. There's a row of red ochre streaks beside your head, marks from a previous group maybe, or yours during a more hopeful evening. No one talks about them, but no one wipes them away either. There's a belief among some scholars that Neanderthals marked walls to count days or record events. Or perhaps they just like the color red. You feel the groove beneath your fingers, worn smooth by time. It feels important. Or maybe it's just something to touch while you wait for the world to end. Again. Outside, the wind drops suddenly and the air grows strangely still. That's never a good sign. You and Bruce exchange a glance, and then he picks up his spear and slips out without a word. You follow. The two of you move silently across the snow-covered ground. Your breath is shallow, boots sinking with a wet crunch. You listen for cracking branches, shifting stones, the chirrup of alert birds. Instead, you hear something worse. Nothing. You crouch behind a boulder shaped like a sleeping bear. Bruce points with 2 fingers, sharp and sure. You see them too, prints, fresh, deeper than yours. Broad at the heel. Whoever left them was heavy and upright. Maybe another tribe, maybe sapiens. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals and Homo sapiens lived side by side peacefully for a time or whether contact was rare and usually violent. All you know is, when strangers show up, someone usually ends up not breathing. You follow the prints a little further until you see it. A broken spear shaft snapped clean across the middle. There's blood in the snow, already freezing into little crimson crystals. Bruce touches it with 2 fingers, sniffs, then nods. Animal blood. You both exhale together. Relief tastes like cold iron, but something else lies just beyond the rise. A mound of snow covering a shape too angular to be natural. You approach cautiously. Spears ready. It's a cache, someone's food. Wrapped in hide and tied with gut string. Maybe buried last moon, maybe yesterday. Dried meat, 2 bone needles, and something weird. A carved bit of antler, shaped like a little figure. It has a hole through its middle and what looks like scratched lines across its back. You exchange glances again. Another group's stash. You don't touch it. Not because of superstition, though some of you are superstitious. Because it's dangerous to anger neighbors, especially ones close enough to leave their leftovers within half a day's walk from your cave. You cover it back up. As you turn to leave, Bruce hums softly. That same awful 2-note rhythm. This time, it's kind of comforting. Back at the cave, Ina is organizing tools. She raises an eyebrow at your return, but says nothing. You hand her the bloody bit of snow, which she inspects with interest before flicking it into the fire. A tiny spark jumps up in protest. You settle into your corner again. Someone's cooking roots. Someone else is trying to fit a stone point onto a broken spear. You hear a laugh, short, unexpected. Someone told a joke, probably about flatulence. Humor's universal, even here. And you realize something, tucked between the furs and flint and fear. You know these people. Not just their smells and habits. You know them, their quirks, their kindness, their quiet strength. You might be Neanderthal now, but you're not alone. The cave doesn't look like much from the outside, just a dark slit in the limestone, half hidden by scraggly brush and the curve of a boulder cracked by years of cold snaps. But inside, it's home. Sort of. You duck in again, shoulders hunched from habit now. Your eyes adjust slowly. The smoke still hangs thick, like a lazy spirit too bored to leave. Your nose twitches. It smells like charred marrow, sweaty hides, and the distinct sharpness of old urine somewhere in a corner. But to you, it smells like safety, familiarity, life. You settle into your usual spot. Everyone has one. The places have no names, but the warmth pressed into the stone by bodies, the slight slope of the floor, the way the draft flows through one side but not the other, those things matter. You nudge a stray rib bone away with your foot and sit. The wall behind you is pockmarked with time, its surface smudged in soot and oils. Someone, maybe even you, once pressed a red handprint there. It's faded now, but not gone. Some scholars argue these cave markings were mere idle smears. Others claim they're messages, art, magic. You just know that when things are quiet, when the wind howls outside and everyone's too tired to speak, you trace that handprint with your eyes and feel a little less alone. You reach down, pluck a scrap of dry sinew from a cracked leather pouch, and begin working it between your teeth. You're not hungry, it's just something to do. Everyone has their thing. Olga hums softly as she stokes the fire, her voice barely louder than the crackling. The old man, Kaon, sleeps upright, mouth slightly open, a line of drool caught in his beard like frozen rain. Ina braids something from reed fiber, hands steady, her gaze fixed on the task like it matters more than breath. Caves are strange places. They offer protection, sure, shelter from wind, snow, and whatever's growling in the forest. But they also hold in the cold, the damp, the dark. Your fire is a weak, flickering defense against all of it. You try to keep it going, but fuel is precious. Wood isn't easy to find in winter. Most of the trees nearby are stripped of branches, or their bark frozen so hard you could knock a tooth out trying to peel it. You remember when the cave flooded last spring? A freak melt. Rivers from the mountains rose fast, and before anyone could grab their tools, icy water was gushing into your home like an angry ghost. You spent that night on higher ground, huddled under a rock ledge with nothing but each other and whatever you managed to snatch in your panic. Bruth saved his spear. Ina saved her eagle claw necklace. You saved your pouch of fire-starting stones. Priorities, right? The water left quickly, but the cave smelled strange for weeks. Mold, rot, something sour and unnameable. But it dried. Everything dries eventually. That's the funny thing about these caves. They're memory boxes. Layers of soot, bones, and broken flint tools stretch back thousands of years, packed into the ground under your feet. Sometimes you find old stuff, tools made by hands long gone, a spear point lodged between stones, a necklace made from teeth cracked and brown. Once, Ina dug up a child's skull and sat with it for hours, brushing away the dirt with such care you'd think she was trying to wake it. She said nothing, just looked into its empty sockets like she was listening. The fire pops, snapping you out of your thoughts. Someone tosses in a bit of dried moss to keep it going. You watch the sparks rise and disappear into the black ceiling above. The smoke creeps up, lingers, then snakes its way out through a narrow crack near the top. That crack is important. Without it, you'd all be unconscious from smoke inhalation by now. A lot of caves don't have that. You've lost people that way before. One group, cousins from the river valley, never woke up after a feast. You found them days later, cold, stiff, faces blackened with soot, mouths open like they were still gasping. You breathe shallow here, always. You stretch out your legs, careful not to bump the pile of tools near your feet. Most of them are flint, sharp, gray, and irregular. A few are more carefully shaped, like someone had the time to think while they worked. There's a scraper with a notched edge, good for peeling skin from muscle. A hand axe, well used. A blade thin enough to cut leather but fragile, better suited for someone with gentler hands. You think of Ina. A fringe idea floats around in scholarly circles that Neanderthals might have designated certain tools for specific people, even customized them. You glance at your own blade, shorter than most, with a thick grip wrapped in dried gut. You've had it for years. The edge is chipped, but it fits your hand like a story you've heard 1,000 times. You hear a soft whimper. One of the children, dreaming badly, His mother shushes him gently, fingers brushing soot from his brow. No words, just contact. You don't talk much here. Grunts, nods, gestures, but everything means something. The way someone hands you a bone means trust. The way someone doesn't look at you means disappointment. A lot is said without saying. Someone begins carving on a flat piece of bone. You tilt your head to watch. The figure taking shape looks like a bison, massive hump, curling horns. It's crude, sure, but you can tell. There's detail in the way the hooves are angled, like it's running. Or maybe charging. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals created symbolic art or just doodled out of boredom. You don't know the answer. But this carving feels like it matters. The hands making it don't tremble. Outside, the wind is picking up again. You feel it, a low hum that presses against the cave walls like a threat. It creeps in through every gap and crack, carrying snow and whispers. You wrap your hide tighter. Even with the fire, it's cold enough to make your teeth ache. You close your eyes for a moment. Not to sleep, just to rest. You picture the world outside the cave. The frozen trees. The path you walked yesterday, where you spotted fox tracks beside your own. The sky, so wide and pale it feels like falling. You picture it not as it is, but as it might be in spring. When the snow softens, when rivers move again, when the sky smells like wet stone instead of death. Maybe then the cave will feel less like a tomb and more like a promise. Someone drops a hide over your shoulders. Ina. She doesn't say anything. She never does. But her eyes meet yours for a moment. Warm, steady, curious. You don't smile. That's not your way. But something in your chest softens anyway. You adjust the hide, lean back against the cave wall, and let the fire's glow paint dancing shadows across your face. Outside, winter howls. But in here, for now, you are safe. You wake before the sun rises, if you can call it rising. In this place, the sun doesn't blaze up. It creeps in, a grayish smear on the horizon that barely changes the world from night to day. Still, it's lighter than it was, and that means it's time. Time to prepare. Again. The air inside the cave is thick with breath and smoke. You cough gently to clear your lungs, careful not to wake the others who still cling to sleep. Every bit of rest is a borrowed luxury. In the Ice Age, winter isn't just a season, it's a sentence. A long, hard one that returns year after year, dragging its cold claws across your ribs whether you're ready or not. And you're never really ready. You pull on your outer fur wrap, stiff from last night's frost. Your boots, softened with rabbit hide, go on slowly, one painful tug at a time. They're damp from melted snow. You ignore it. Wet feet are just a fact of life now, like smoky air and creaking joints. Winter prep isn't dramatic, it's constant. Every day, you gather, store, and hoard. You don't get to say we're stocked, let's take a break. No, that's how people end up frozen into statues in some snow-choked ravine, clutching a stick of half-chewed root. You step outside. The wind punches you in the face like it's been waiting all night. You brace for it. Lean into it. Your breath comes out in gusts that freeze on your eyelashes. It's snowing again, but the flakes are more like icy crumbs blown sideways. Visibility? Meh. A strong maybe. The world is white and gray and brown, and somehow that's beautiful. The trees in the distance are skeletons, bare branches reaching up like fingers toward a sky that gives nothing back. Your footprints from yesterday are gone. The snow has eaten them. Good. Less sign for predators to follow. You move slowly toward the fire pit you set up last week near a rock outcrop. It's mostly buried now. You dig with your hands, uncover the charred logs, and touch the center with your knuckles. Cold. Dead. You'll have to start it from scratch. You pull out your pouch and begin the process. Flint. Dried moss. Patience. Lots of that. You strike once, twice, 10 times, until finally a tiny ember winks into life. You cup it, blow softly like coaxing a secret from a child. It catches, flares, becomes flame. You feel powerful, like a god. A very cold, runny-nosed god. Back at the cave, others are stirring. The tribe moves slowly in the cold like a herd of sleepy bears. Ruth emerges, rubbing his eyes with one massive fist. He grunts a greeting. You grunt back. That's how Neanderthals do conversation before breakfast. Ina is next. She's already chewing a strip of dried something. Probably hair, possibly root. Could be tree bark, honestly. She waves a hand vaguely at the horizon. Storm coming, she says. You believe her. She always knows. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals could predict weather patterns. But when Ina says storm, you check your gear. And today, you're low on everything. You gather the foraging crew, just 3 of you this time. Bruth, Ina, and a younger boy named Drock, who's eager but distractible. You arm yourselves, spears, scraping knives, and a sack for anything edible. Not that much is. The landscape you cross is brutal and beautiful. Snow covers everything like a badly spread blanket. Every so often, a tuft of dead grass pokes through, stubborn and sad. Your breath echoes in your ears. You hear nothing else. No birds, no animals. Just snow shifting underfoot and the occasional sniffle from Drock. After an hour of walking, you find something. A patch of ground disturbed. A few scattered prints half filled with snow. You crouch, examine. Deer? No, heavier. Maybe elk. Broth nods and gestures east. You follow. Soon you come upon a carcass, not fresh. A reindeer, half eaten by wolves. The meat's mostly gone, but the bones, those are gold. You pull out a stone blade and begin sawing at a femur. Ina works on the ribs. Drock is poking the skull with a stick. You leave him to it. Everyone starts somewhere. You gather what you can. Bones for marrow, bits of tendon, a few pieces of hide still clinging to the flank. Ina finds a patch of frozen mushrooms on a nearby log. Risky, some could kill you. She pockets them anyway. Maybe they're the good kind. Or maybe you'll find out the hard way. On the way back, the wind picks up. The storm she predicted is early. Snow lashes your face like 1,000 tiny whips. You wrap your fur tighter, bow your head, and trudge on. The cold finds every gap in your clothing. Your feet feel like blocks of ice. Drock starts crying softly, but no one comments. You've all done it. Once. You make it back just as the first real gusts howl down the valley. Inside the cave, it's dim, crowded, but warm. The fire is going strong, thanks to Oga. You hand off your findings. Bruth cracks bones for marrow. Ina begins boiling mushrooms. You slump down and rub your legs. You won't feel your toes until morning. Maybe. There's a kind of quiet satisfaction now. Not joy, not celebration. Just relief. You're one day closer to surviving winter. That's the goal. Not thriving. Not conquering. Just surviving. One bitter hour at a time. A fringe theory suggests Neanderthals didn't just survive but developed seasonal rituals, simple gatherings to mark the return of light or the longest night. You remember once when Kaon painted a mammoth on the cave wall with soot and red ochre during the darkest day. No one spoke for hours after. It felt sacred. You don't know why. It just did. That night you sleep in shifts. The storm howls louder now, rattling even the thick hides over the cave entrance. You wake every so often, heart racing at phantom sounds. But the fire stays lit. The roof doesn't collapse. And when you dream of grass. Tall, green, endless. A place where you don't need fur or fire or fear. In the morning, the snow has piled up past your knees. The world looks different again. Clean. Silent. As if winter has erased yesterday and dares you to start again. And you will. Because that's what Neanderthals do. You fight the cold with fire and memory. You prepare. You endure. Always. The first sound of your day isn't the chirp of birds or the beep of an alarm clock. It's a sneeze. A wet, echoing, unmistakably human sneeze. And it belongs to Broth, who's already awake, hunched over the fire pit, hacking like he swallowed a handful of ash. You groan. It's too early for plague season. You sit up slowly, stiff as a mammoth carcass. Your muscles complain in every direction. Your back feels like someone bashed it with a rock. Your knees, let's not even talk about the knees. Every joint clicks, pops, and grinds like it's carved from wood instead of bone. Welcome to the Neanderthal morning routine. Pain, grunts, and the desperate search for warmth. Fire. That's the first priority. It always is. Oga is crouched beside the embers, muttering to herself as she feeds dry moss and splinters into the pit. Smoke curls up into the cave ceiling and mingles with the musty morning air, an odd blend of old meat, damp hides, and the sort of smell you never fully get used to but start calling normal. It's not good, but it's yours. You dig through your pack for something to chew on. Breakfast is flexible. Today, it's a strip of dried fish that tastes like salt and sadness. You chew it anyway. You chew everything now. The tough leather of jerky, the brittle marrow ends of boiled bones, even those weird fibrous roots Ina finds sometimes that make your mouth tingle like bees are gossiping on your tongue. Drock, the wide-eyed kid, is squatting near the wall, gnawing at a piece of antler, not chewing it for food. Just chewing. You nod at him. He nods back, like this is totally normal, which it is. Neanderthals have dental wear that would make a dentist cry. Ground-down molars, cracked incisors, and enamel like the surface of the moon. But hey, you make do. A fringe belief holds that some Neanderthals chewed hides to soften them for tanning. You've done it. Everyone's done it. You suck on a strip of reindeer skin, then press it flat and begin scraping it with a flint edge. This is the morning grind. Not coffee, not emails, but preparing hides, shaping tools, checking for lice, and trying not to freeze. Speaking of lice, scratch, scratch. Yep, still there. You lift your shirt and examine a suspicious bump. Probably flea bite number 38. You stop counting after a while. Olga claims rubbing garlic on your scalp keeps them away. You haven't seen garlic in weeks, and you're not convinced. She also says smearing deer fat behind your ears makes them slide off. Mostly it just makes your ears slippery and weird smelling. Kaon, the old one, is already awake. He doesn't say much anymore, but today he's holding a stick and drawing in the ash on the cave floor. Squiggles. A shape that might be a bear, or a memory. You glance over, curious. His fingers tremble, but the lines are confident. He draws like he's seen this bear before, up close. Some archaeologists argue that Neanderthals used ash drawings as temporary teaching tools. Maybe Kaon's just bored, or maybe he's remembering a story that only he can see. Either way, no one interrupts him. Time to make tools. Your flint blade has dulled again. That's the thing about flint, deadly sharp until it's not. You sit cross-legged and lay out your kit. Core stone, pressure flaker, hammer rock. The goal today is a scraper. You need it to finish the hide you slept under last night. It's been your project for a week. Smoked, stretched, half-chewed, and still not waterproof. Tap, chip, flake. The rhythm becomes its own little song. A sleepy lullaby made of stone and intent. You like this part. The way a sharp edge emerges from raw rock. Like magic, but noisier. You pause to admire your progress. It's not perfect, but it'll do. The scraper is about palm-sized, curved at the edge, ready to meet reindeer hide like an old enemy. Ina walks past you carrying a bundle of bones. She nods at your tool. Better than your last one, she says. You grunt, which is Neanderthal for thanks, I guess. Compliments are rare. You savor it. You get back to work. The scraping is methodical, slow. You pull the hide taut over a flat stone, press the flint against it, and draw down. Long, clean motions, over and over. The fur comes away in clumps, leaving the skin smooth and pale beneath. The smell? Rancid. Like wet dog that rolled in swamp mud. But that just means it's working. Outside the cave, you hear the dull thud of stone on wood. Broth is splitting firewood. That's another job in the morning lineup. Collecting and chopping whatever branches you can find that aren't soaked through or rotted. Dry wood is treasure. Burn it too fast and you'll regret it when night falls. You finish your scraping and lay the hide over the drying rack. A frame of bent branches held together with sinew. It sways slightly in the breeze coming through the cave crack. You secure it with extra knots. Last time, a gust knocked the whole thing into the fire pit. That did not go over well. The smell of burning fur stayed with you for days. Someone's boiling something near the hearth now. Roots and old meat scraps. The smell makes your stomach turn a little. But food is food. You'll eat when it's done. In the meantime, you rub your hands with ash to kill whatever's crawling on them and begin inspecting your boots. The stitching is fraying again. Ina hands you a needle. Bone, fine, carved by someone patient. You begin sewing the seams, using sinew thread you softened with spit last night. The process is slow, and your fingers are numb, but it's strangely satisfying. This is your world. Maintenance, mending, preparation. One cracked sole at a time. A quirky but fascinating debate exists among paleoanthropologists. Did Neanderthals have morning rituals? Specific sequences to anchor the day? You think yes, not ceremonies but patterns. First fire, then scraping, then checking tools, stitching clothes, cracking bones. A loop as old as breath. Drock wanders over, eyeing your scraper. Sharp, he says, wide-eyed. You hand it to him and watch as he tests it on a bit of bark. He nicks his thumb and hisses. Not too bad, just a scratch. But he learns. And that's the point. Tools are more than things. They're memories, lessons, promises that maybe tomorrow will go a little easier if you sharpen something today. As midday drags in, you start thinking about the hunt. You'll need more meat soon. The stash from the last kill is almost gone, and the dried fish, honestly, you're hoping someone drops it in the fire by accident. But for now, you just breathe. You look around. The cave is alive with activity. People repairing, scraping, weaving, mumbling, chewing. You hear a child's laugh, short, bright, like the sun poking out from behind clouds. It makes you smile just a little. This is the grind. Not glamorous, not epic, but it's what keeps you breathing. What keeps the fire going, the tools sharp, the hides waterproof. Tomorrow, you'll face the hunt. But today you sow, you scrape, you scratch, and you survive. You're out early again. This time, not to gather wood or scratch at frozen moss. Today is about stone, the good kind. The kind you need to keep the tribe alive. You hike east toward the riverbed where frost splits rocks in winter and leaves behind veins of flint when the snow pulls back like a tired tide. The sun, if you can call it that, peeks through in streaks. You wouldn't call it warm, but it's less aggressive than yesterday. The air is still frigid, your breath still visible, but at least your fingers move without feeling like frozen carrots. You kneel by the river's edge, brush away loose snow, and begin turning over stones. You're looking for flint, dark, glassy, sharp when fractured. Some pieces you discard immediately, too soft, too cracked, too weirdly shaped. Others you pocket. One's perfect. You hold it up to the light, smooth on one side, promising on the other. You smile without smiling and tuck it in your satchel. Toolmaking isn't art, it's survival. You feel each chip of stone echo up through your hand, each fracture a whisper of your ancestors saying, "Do it right or die tired." Back in the cave, your flint kit is already laid out. A larger core stone, some smaller shaping tools, a hammerstone. The shaping begins. You start with percussion flaking, striking the core with just the right angle and pressure to knock off long flakes. The flakes themselves are sharp enough to slice meat or tendons. They don't need refining, but you're not after flakes today. You want a blade. Tap, chip, crack, over and over. It's meditative, like counting breaths. The sound is satisfying, clean, purposeful. Ina glances up from where she's weaving cordage and gives you a half nod of approval. You pretend not to notice, which is your way of showing off. Your hands move automatically. The position of your fingers, the feel of the pressure, the angle of each strike. It's all instinct now. You weren't born with this knowledge. Someone taught you, or maybe several someones. And now it lives in your muscles, not your mind. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals taught through mimicry or verbal instruction. You remember watching Bruth make his first blade. He sliced open his thumb and didn't cry until nightfall. You respected him for that. Today, your work is cleaner. You've shaped a blade with one long, even edge, good for skinning or defending yourself should you need to. You test the sharpness by slicing through a scrap of sinew. It falls apart instantly. Perfect. You move on to hafting. You need a stick, sturdy, straight. You split the end and wedge in the flint blade, wrapping it tight with softened gut. For extra security, you smear pine resin along the joint. It smells terrible, sticky and tar-like, but when it hardens, it'll hold. A fringe theory suggests Neanderthals heated resin with glowing coals and mixed it with powdered charcoal for strength. You've tried it. It works. But it's messy. Ina once got it in her hair and had to shave off a chunk with a scraper. She was not pleased. The hafted tool sits in your hand like an extension of your arm. You feel stronger just holding it. It isn't just a blade. It's a promise that tomorrow, if an animal crosses your path, or a stranger, you'll be ready. Kaon wanders over. He picks up one of your discarded flakes and runs a finger along its edge. He nods and sits beside you. He's not much for talking these days, but when he does, it's worth listening. He holds up a stone, a small, rounded scraper. Not one of yours, It's old, worn. The kind you find buried deep in the cave dust beneath layers of soot and ash. He grunts and points to it, then to your new blade. You get it? Then and now. The past handing tools to the present. You both sit there for a while, not speaking, the fire crackling softly beside you. Later, you dig through the tribe's communal stash, a woven pouch hanging from a carved peg. Inside are the group tools, blades and scrapers used by anyone who needs them. You add yours to the collection. You don't expect it back. That's how this works. You make, you give. Someone else uses it to cut roots, or clean a wound, or skin a fox. The blade travels even if you don't. Drock sidles up, watching you closely. "Show me?" he asks. You nod. You hand him a smaller flake and guide his fingers. Not too tight. Let the stone speak to your hand. You show him how to angle the pressure. He chips a piece and flinches when it snaps. But the next one comes clean. And the one after that. You grunt. He grins. "Sharp," he says proudly. "Try not to cut yourself this time," you mutter. That's how it goes. Knowledge passed from hand to hand. No lectures. No scrolls. Just chipped stone and quiet trust. There's a particular rhythm to your days now. Wake, warm, chew, carve, chip, and somewhere in there, the fire stays burning and your people stay alive. That's the win condition. Evening creeps in like a slow fog. The fire grows, flames licking the sides of the hearth pit. Someone's boiling marrow bones, fat, rich, creamy, worth every drop. The smell is unsettling, but you're used to that. You dip your blade into a pot of hot water to clean the blood from earlier. Even the steam feels sacred. Ina is sharpening a point beside you. She moves with precision, not brute force. You hand her your blade and she tests it, nodding approvingly. "You're getting good," she says. You don't respond, but your chest feels warmer than the fire. As the night deepens, you store your tools. Tuck them beside your bedroll. Because even in this close-knit group, tools walk off if you're not careful. That's life. Trust, but keep your flint close. You curl into your hide pile, feeling the weight of the day in your bones. The last thing you see before sleep takes you is the faint reflection of firelight glinting off your blade's edge. Still sharp, still ready. And outside, somewhere in the darkness, the Ice Age keeps breathing. Slow, cold, relentless. But so do you. The morning is sharp, cold enough to sting your teeth as you suck in your first breath. No frostbite yet, but give it a few hours. You sit up slowly, joints creaking, head pounding softly from sleeping too close to the smoky fire. Everyone looks a little worse for wear this morning. That's how you know it's a hunting day. Outside, the wind has died down. That's rare. A calm morning like this is your best shot at tracking game without the snow covering their prints within minutes. Ina's already crouched by the cave's edge, eyeing the horizon with her usual quiet intensity. Bruth is checking the hunting spears, running his thick fingers along each haft, testing the balance like he's choosing a dance partner. You stand and stretch, stepping carefully over sleeping bodies, hides, and scattered tools. The cold outside smacks you in the face, but today it feels more like an invitation than a threat. Today, you're going hunting. You gear up, furs pulled tight, spear strapped across your back, small knife tucked into your belt. Your feet are wrapped in hides lined with moss, and you've tucked your fire flint into a pouch by your chest. Because if something goes wrong out there, and it often does, you'll need more than brute force to make it back. The prey today? Something big. Something that'll feed the group for weeks if you're lucky, and for days if you're not. Bruth suggests reindeer, but you all know what you're really hoping for. Woolly rhinoceros. Risky. Dangerous. Unpredictable. But glorious. You've seen them before. Towering, shaggy beasts with thick curved horns and hide like tree bark. They're ancient tanks, if a tank could get spooked by a squirrel and trample 5 hunters in one charge. Ina marks the route with a stick in the snow. You'll move along the ridge, cut through the lower woods, then swing back around the clearing where the herd was last spotted. Maybe they're still nearby, maybe they're not, but you won't know unless you go look. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals specialized in particular prey or simply hunted whatever wandered closest. You're guessing it's a little of both. Some days you take what you can get, Other days you chase giants. You set out just after mid-morning. The snow is crunchy underfoot, new, not too deep. Your breath comes in clouds, drifting upward in silence. You walk single file, each of you stepping in the last one's prints to conserve energy. Drock tags along at the back, watching everything like he's soaking in the world for the first time. His spear's a bit too big for him, but he insists on carrying it anyway. The forest is still. No birds, no movement, just trees standing like sentinels in a world that forgot sound. You keep your eyes on the ground. Tracks, droppings, broken branches, anything that might say something heavy walked through here. After a while, Ina freezes mid-step. She crouches low, pointing. There it is, a trail, wide prints in the snow, deep, spaced far apart. Something big. Woolly rhino? Maybe. You kneel beside the tracks, press your palm into one. Still faintly warm. That means close. You move more carefully now, quieter. Even Bruce, with all his bulk, manages to step like a ghost. The snow muffles your sounds, but you still flinch at every snapped twig or shifting branch. Your ears strain. Nothing, just the soft crunch of movement up ahead. Then you see it. It's grazing in the clearing, massive, broad-shouldered, steam rising from its flanks. Wool hangs in heavy mats along its sides, and its horn, long pale, scarred from fights, gleams faintly in the flat light. It's beautiful in a way that makes your breath catch, and terrifying in the same instant. You freeze behind a rock, crouched low. Ina leans over. Downwind, she mouths, though you already know. The plan? A classic pincer move. Bruce and Drock will circle to the left, drive it toward the gully. You and Ina will wait on the right, spears ready. If it runs where you want, maybe, just maybe, you'll land a hit. The problem is, it rarely goes how you want. Bruce makes his move. A sharp grunt, a stone tossed deliberately through the trees. The rhino startles, snorts, and turns, but not toward the gully. It charges, straight at Bruce. You don't have time to think. He dives left, just as the beast crashes through the underbrush, hooves churning snow and mud into a spray of earth. You leap up and throw your spear. It arcs beautifully, too beautifully. The shaft grazes its flank, but barely sinks. Bruth's already up, scrambling over rocks. Ina throws next. Hers lands better, punching into the creature's shoulder. It bellows, loud, furious. Then it wheels around. Now it's your turn to run. You bolt behind a pine, slip on a patch of ice, and roll into a snowbank with a grunt. The rhino charges past, crashing through trees like they're kindling. Then, it stops, bleeding, confused, tired. Drock appears out of nowhere, spear in hand, and hurls it with everything he has. It hits. The rhino bellows again, stumbles, and finally drops to its knees. You rush forward, knife ready, breath burning your throat. The final cut is fast, merciful. You press the blade beneath its chin, deep into the soft spot, and end it. Then silence. The four of you stand around the body, steam rising from its back. No one speaks. You just breathe. Deep, heavy, grateful. It's done. A successful kill, and now the hard part begins. Field dressing a woolly rhinoceros is not fun. You've got to work fast. The scent will draw predators. The hide is thick, stubborn, and it takes all of you to even peel back the first flap. Bruce handles the legs. Ina works the ribs. You're on gut duty, which is exactly as glamorous as it sounds. The smell is overwhelming. You gag more than once. Drock tries to help, but slips on a patch of blood and lands in something unspeakable. He's fine. Just a little green. You pack what you can carry. Meat, organs, bone, strips of fat. The rest, you cache under snow and mark with sticks. If scavengers don't get it, you'll be back tomorrow. The trek back is brutal. The meat is heavy, the cold biting harder now, but you move fast, driven by adrenaline, hunger, and the sharp knowledge that you just changed the future of your people, at least for a few days. Back at the cave, the others gather quickly. Faces light up as the meat is laid out. Fires are stoked, pots are filled. Kaon hums a low tune, maybe a song, maybe a memory. Someone roasts the liver first. You eat your steaming hot, juices running down your chin. It's rich, earthy, and still tastes like triumph. That night, you sleep deeper than you have in weeks, and dream of wool, blood, and snow. You wake to the smell of meat. Not just any meat. Slow roasted, fire crackled, fat slicked meat. The kind that melts on your tongue and coats your throat with warmth. It's the scent of survival, of a successful hunt, of not being hungry for a little while longer. And in this brutal Ice Age life, that's as close to luxury as it gets. The cave is buzzing. Not loudly. Neanderthals don't do loud unless someone steps on a spearhead, but there's a low hum of movement and satisfaction. The big woolly rhino kill has changed the mood. It's rare to see the whole group this well fed and alert, even if everyone still smells like campfire and stress. You rise slowly, limbs sore but steady. The first thing you see is Bruce gnawing on a rib the size of your forearm. He grunts as grease dribbles down his chin and onto his fur wrap. He doesn't care. None of you do. Because today, you eat. You shuffle over to the hearth, where Ina is flipping strips of belly meat over a flat stone set in the coals. The fat sizzles and pops, sending sparks dancing upward like fireflies with a death wish. She glances up and hands you a piece without a word. It's still steaming. You blow on it once and sink your teeth in. It's glorious. Salty, tender, rich with that hard-to-describe taste that only comes from something that fought back. You chew slowly, eyes half-lidded, savoring every bite. Around you, others are doing the same. Passing bones, licking fingers, cracking joints open for marrow. And oh, the marrow. You take a thick leg bone and smash it with a flat rock. Crack. The brittle shell splits, revealing the creamy, nutrient-rich core. You scoop it out with a sliver of wood and suck it down. It tastes like pure energy. Dense, oily, slightly metallic. Like butter from a world that never knew cows. Historians confirm that Neanderthals were nose-to-tail eaters. Nothing was wasted. Not muscle, not fat, not bones, not brains. You once watched Olga boil a chunk of spinal cord for 6 hours. It smelled terrible and looked worse. She said it kept her knees from locking up in the cold. Maybe she's right. Maybe it's just tradition. Either way, she's still walking, so you don't argue. Today, the menu is extensive. Along with the fire-roasted meat and boiled bone stew, someone's grilling liver over hot coals. Ina's got a small pot of blood broth simmering, thickened with powdered root, and a handful of dried berries that somehow survived the last frost. You eat until your belly aches in that warm, sleepy way. Then you eat a little more, because tomorrow there might be nothing. So today, you indulge. Drock is chewing on what looks like a piece of ear. He sees your expression and shrugs. Tough, but not bad, he mumbles, mouth full. You can't argue with that. Later, you help Ina work through the leftovers. There's a lot to process. Meat to dry, hide to stretch, sinew to peel. The drying rack outside is already sagging under the weight of sliced meat strips. You add another layer, turning them carefully so the smoke hits evenly. It's not glamorous work, but it's vital. Preserving food is a sacred act here. You don't have salt, you don't have jars or coolers or fancy vacuum sealers. What you have is smoke, cold air, and time. You hang the meat high on branches, let the wind and flame do their job. If it dries right, it'll last for weeks. If it doesn't, mold, rot, sickness. You've seen all three. The fat is rendered in a stone bowl near the fire. It bubbles and hisses like a potion. You skim it, pour it into hollowed bones, and seal them with hide. Later, you'll mix it with ground-up nuts and dried berries to make traveling food. It's heavy, greasy, and makes your throat close up if you eat too much, but it keeps you alive on long hunts. Then there's the bones. Big ones for marrow, small ones for tools. You save the long ones for handles, the flat ones for scraping. Some you crack into splinters for needles or fishhooks. Even the gnawed, greasy remains go to the fire, where they'll burn slow and hot. One of the old women, nobody's sure whose grandmother she is anymore, gathers the skull. She scrubs it with snow, muttering under her breath. She's not saying real words, but there's a rhythm to it, like a chant. Ina says it's an offering, or maybe just habit. A scholarly debate lingers around this. Did Neanderthals perform rituals with bones? Were skulls sacred? Were they trophies? Some think so. Some say no. You think, maybe it's both. You don't question the old woman. You just watch as she props the skull near the entrance, facing outward like a guardian. Its hollow eye sockets seem to watch the horizon. By midday, the tribe is moving slower. The first wave of hunger has passed, and now everyone's caught in that delicious, meaty haze. You lie back near the fire, chewing a tendon like a piece of rope. Your hands are sticky with grease, your lips cracked from heat and cold, but you feel, strangely, happy. Ruth lets out a loud burp that echoes off the cave walls like thunder. Someone chuckles. Ina rolls her eyes but smiles. Kaon nods sagely, like that burp was a profound truth he's been waiting to hear. You close your eyes for a moment and just listen. The crackle of the fire, the murmur of voices, the wind, gentler now, whispering through the cave's stone mouth. You let it all wash over you. In this moment, there is no hunger, no fear, no icy wind chewing your ears, just food, fire, and the faint sense that, for now, you're going to be okay. Of course, the peace doesn't last forever. Later, you help Ina scrape the hide. It's hard work, tough, slippery, stinking. Your flint scraper digs into the thick layer of fat and hair. Slowly, steadily, the skin begins to take shape. She's making a cloak. You can tell by the way she measures the shoulders, checking the width with her arms. "You'll need it soon," she says quietly, eyes still on her work. You nod. The wind's shifting again. You can feel it in your teeth. The cave gets quieter as evening settles in. Bellies are full, fires are steady. Even the children are too tired to bicker. One of them is curled up in a pile of hides, gnawing sleepily on a meat bone the size of his head. You sit near the entrance, watching the light fade from gray to darker gray to almost black. The rhino skull is still there, a silent sentry. You nod at it as you pass. Inside, someone's telling a story. It's hard to follow. It's mostly gestures, facial expressions, and sound effects, but you get the gist. It involves a man, a bear, and some truly impressive flatulence. Everyone laughs. You smile too, because tonight you're not hungry. Tonight you're not cold. Tonight you're fed, warm, and alive. And in the Ice Age, that's everything. It happens sometime during the night, that familiar and unmistakable shuffling beneath the furs next to you. Not the rustle of someone adjusting a cloak or stretching a stiff leg, but the slow, deliberate wriggle of another body seeking warmth. You don't open your eyes. You don't have to. Ina. She's quiet as always, but you recognize the rhythm of her breath. The way she tucks her feet beneath your calf to steal heat and then stays perfectly still as though pretending it was accidental. It wasn't. You both know it. You shift slightly, adjusting your furs to cover her better. There's no spoken thank you. No flirty glance, just survival. Affection here is subtle. A shared cloak. An extra bite of marrow. A hand over yours when your fingers shake too much to finish stitching your boot. The Ice Age doesn't leave room for romance. Not the way you might see in storybooks, or would if books existed. There are no flowers, no handwritten notes, no candlelit evenings. There is only need. Closeness. The press of skin to skin when the cave gets too cold. And maybe, if you're lucky, something a little more. You drift back to sleep, Ina's weight steady beside you, her breath warm against your shoulder. In the morning, she's gone. Already outside, probably, gathering water or sharpening tools. You pull yourself up, limbs sore from yesterday's work, and shuffle toward the cave entrance. She's there, crouched beside the fire, poking at the embers with a stick. Her hair is tangled, her eyes tired, but she looks up and nods when she sees you. That's all, no words, just a nod. And yet somehow it feels like a novel. There's no ceremony here, no official pairings. You share space, you share effort, sometimes you share a bed. If it works, it continues. If it doesn't, you drift apart. It's not romantic, but it's real. Historians still debate whether Neanderthals formed long-term partnerships or just mated seasonally like many other mammals. But when you watch how Ina pulls your half-dried cloak from the rack and folds it beside your sleeping space, you figure there that maybe it's something in between. Later that morning, you help her gut a fish. She doesn't need help. She's quicker, cleaner, and doesn't flinch when the innards splatter onto the stone. But she lets you help anyway. "Fat's better near the tail," she mutters, handing you a sliver. You chew it slowly. It's oily, bland, and full of tiny bones. You love it. She smirks when you cough on a pin bone. Affection in Neanderthal culture isn't about words. It's action. You carry someone's pack. You fix their boots. You give up your seat by the fire. Ina once tore a chunk off her own fur wrap to make a glove for you. It was ugly and barely fit, but you wore it for weeks until it fell apart. Drak is watching you now. He's probably wondering if you and Ina are together. The group doesn't define it. Some partnerships last for a few moons, others for years. Some swap partners, especially when one dies or disappears. Children belong to everyone. Mothers raise them, but the whole tribe teaches, feeds, protects. You remember when a boy got sick 2 winters ago? His mother couldn't get him to keep food down. Kaon chewed roots for him, softening them with spit. Olga stayed up all night whispering songs no one else knew. Ina made a sling to carry him when he was too weak to walk. The boy lived. Maybe that's love. Just quiet, daily work. After breakfast, you and Ina set off to check the traps. It's one of the many things you do together now. Little looped snares made from twisted gut, placed where small game might wander. You talk more when it's just the two of you. Not much, but more. You think the storm will hit tonight? She asks as you climb a ridge. Feels like it, you answer. That's it, nothing flowery, just shared knowledge, mutual survival. One trap holds a rabbit. Scrawny, but meat is meat. Ina kills it swiftly, thanks it under her breath, and adds it to the sack. The next snare is empty. The third one, sprung, but nothing caught. You reset it together, fingers brushing for a second too long. You don't say anything. Neither does she. Back at the cave, you clean the rabbit together. She slices, you scrape. Her hands move fast, confident. You try to keep up. The guts go into a small bowl for bait. The fur gets stretched for drying, the meat for tonight's stew. Later you sit side by side, watching Bruce tell a story to the children. He uses his hands a lot, making horns for a bison, miming a fall into a hole, pretending to die dramatically. They love it, even you chuckle. Ina leans over, whispering. He leaves out the part where he cried when the rat bit him. You raise your eyebrows. He did? Loudly. You both laugh quietly, shoulders touching. Then she's quiet again. You stay like that for a long while. At night, the wind howls again. The fire burns low. You lie on your furs, staring at the ceiling. Ina joins you after a while, curling up without a word. She smells like smoke and fish and cold air. It's oddly comforting. You pull a hide over both of you. She rests a hand on your chest just for a moment, then pulls it back. You don't move, don't speak. You just breathe. Together. The baby is coming. You wake to the sound of panting. Not the kind you hear after a hard hunt, or the kind that comes with cold-soaked lungs. This is sharp, uneven, urgent. You sit up quickly, nearly knocking over a firewood bundle. The cave is darker than usual, smoke hanging low and thick. The fire is down to embers. You squint through the gloom, and there on the far side of the hearth is Raka. She's on her side, legs pulled up, clutching her belly with both arms. Her face is contorted, streaked with soot and sweat. The skin around her eyes is tight, jaw clenched hard enough to snap bone. A small group has formed around her. Olga, Ina, one of the older mothers, and Bruce lingering awkwardly near the entrance, looking like he'd rather fight a saber-toothed cat. You don't ask if it's time. You can see that it is. Birth in your world is a gamble. No hospitals, no clean sheets, just instinct, experience, and a few carefully hoarded herbs that might dull pain or stop bleeding, if you're lucky. If you're not, well, that's why every cave has stories whispered in the firelight about mothers who never open their eyes again. You crawl closer, staying back, not wanting to crowd. Ina glances up briefly. Her face is calm, serious. She's holding a bone needle between her teeth, threading a length of gut cord through it, preparing something. Maybe for stitching, maybe for luck. You never ask Ina what's luck and what's logic. She keeps that distinction to herself. Raka lets out another cry. Not a scream, not quite, but close. It echoes off the cave walls, bounces into your bones. You see one of the children stir under the hides, eyes wide, too afraid to ask what's happening. You remember when your sister gave birth 2 winters ago. She bled so much that Kaon couldn't look her in the eyes afterward. She survived, but just barely. Her child didn't. You think of that night every time someone starts labor. Olga is murmuring now, something rhythmic. You can't tell if it's a song, a prayer, or just her version of comfort. She's placing hot stones near Raka's feet, wrapped in damp moss to release steam. Ina checks the baby's position with careful hands, her brow furrowed. Soon, she says, and everyone goes still. It's strange how the whole tribe holds its breath when one of you is giving birth. No one goes hunting today. No one naps stone. Even the firewood sits unchopped, as if the act of bringing a new life into this harsh world demands the full attention of the old ones. A mainstream theory holds that Neanderthals gave birth in squatted positions, aided by others in the group. Here, Raka is half squatting, half leaning on Ina, with Oga supporting her back. It's awkward, painful. There's nothing gentle about it. Another contraction hits. Raka's hands claw at the fur mat. She's moaning now, high and soft like wind slipping through pine branches. You see blood. Not much, but it's starting. Someone fetches a bowl of boiled water. Another tear strips from a clean hide, linen's dream equivalent. Ina directs with few words: lift, support, hold. Everyone obeys. You find yourself gripping a thick bone scraper, offering it to Raka to bite down on. She clamps her teeth around it with a ferocity that would make a lion blink. You feel a deep swell of admiration. She is, right now, the strongest person you've ever seen. Time passes weirdly. Moments stretch, loop, fold in on themselves. It could be an hour. It could be 5. The cave grows quiet. Even the wind hushes. Then, suddenly, there's motion. A shift in Oga's eyes. Ina leans forward, both hands steady, and then, the baby. It comes into the world with a wet, slippery gasp, limbs flailing, mouth open in a wordless cry that feels ancient and sacred all at once. It's small, red, covered in fluids, but it's alive. Raka collapses back, panting. Her eyes flutter closed. Oga catches her head in both hands. Ina's already rubbing the baby's chest with a bit of clean hide, coaxing it to breathe stronger. Its wails fill the cave, raw and demanding. The sound cracks something open in your chest. "Girl," Ina says. No one says anything, just breathes. A few fringe anthropologists believe Neanderthals may have named their children immediately, while others argue names were earned later. Here, Ina whispers something to the baby, too soft for you to hear. Maybe it's a name. Maybe it's just a welcome. You help heat more stones. You fetch more moss. Everyone has a role now. Even Bruce, who's still standing near the cave's edge, frozen like a statue, eventually moves to fetch water. He brings it in silence, sets it down without a word, and backs away like the cave is holy ground now. By nightfall, Raka is still alive. Pale, trembling, but alive. The baby is curled against her chest, wrapped in the softest piece of hide you own. Someone places a line of warm bones around the mother's body. Cultural? Medicinal? Superstitious? You're not sure. You sit near Ina, who's finally resting. Her eyes are half closed, her hands streaked in blood and ash. You want to say something, anything, but nothing feels right. Instead, you hand her a hot drink made from boiled roots and fish skin. She takes it without comment. Later, the tribe gathers loosely around the fire. You don't celebrate loudly, you don't feast or dance, but there's something electric in the air. A weight has lifted. The baby made it. Raka made it. You all made it through another dark turn of fortune. Someone offers Raka a bite of roasted marrow. She takes it with shaking hands. Her lips barely move, but she eats. You catch the eye of the child you saw earlier, the one watching everything from behind a fur bundle. His face is still tight with worry. You beckon him over and let him peek at the baby. His eyes go wide. "She's small," he whispers. You nod. For now? As night deepens, you crawl back to your furs. Ina is already there, lying on her side, arms tucked beneath her head. You settle in beside her without a word. Her back touches yours. Outside, the wind begins again. Inside, there's new life. And for tonight, that's enough. You're staring across the fire at Bruce, and Bruce is staring back at you. Only he's not mad. Not exactly. He's just misunderstood. Like usual. The two of you are locked in an intense moment of Neanderthal diplomacy. No shouting, no fists, just a series of increasingly exaggerated grunts and pointed glares, and maybe a sharp inhale or two. All of this over a bone. To be fair, it's a good bone. Sturdy, long, and already scraped clean. You are going to use it to make a new awl for hide work. Bruce wants to turn it into a spear wedge. Neither of you wants to back down. So you grunt. He grunts. You gesture to your sewing pouch. He waves his spear. You squint. He snorts. It's all very mature. Welcome to communication, Neanderthal style. You finally relent, not because you're convinced, but but because Olga throws a stick at both of you and huffs so dramatically the baby starts crying again. Ruth shrugs and tosses you a different bone, thinner and slightly cracked. You'll make it work. You always do. Contrary to outdated stereotypes, your people are not brainless brutes. You communicate, just not with full sentences. Not yet. Your grunts vary in tone and volume. Your expressions do a lot of heavy lifting. And your hands? They're practically a second language. You've seen whole conversations happen without a single word. A squint paired with a head tilt says, "Did you see that lion?" A grunt while pointing can mean, "Don't eat that mushroom unless you want to die painfully." And when Ina clicks her tongue 3 times and tosses her braid over her shoulder, it definitely means, "Stop being dramatic." Modern researchers believe Neanderthals likely had a complex system of communication, blending vocal sounds, body language, and gesture. Some argue they had words, even rudimentary grammar. You don't know the specifics, but you know the rhythm. It's there in every raised brow, every grunt, every flick of the hand. Take Kaon, for example. He hasn't spoken in days. Not because he can't, but because he doesn't need to. His eyes do the talking. He points, he hums, he thumps his walking stick 3 times when someone needs to shut up. That's his version of a speech. Even Drak, the youngest, has learned the language of looks. He can ask for food without opening his mouth. He can tell when he's annoyed Ina, usually when she tightens her jaw and sharpens her knife a little too enthusiastically. There's a kind of peace in it. No wasted breath, no misunderstandings, well, except for today's bone incident. You file that under creative disagreement. Later that morning, you're on high duty. Again, you and Ina sit across from each other, stretching a deer pelt between 2 stakes. The work is repetitive, pull, scrape, smooth, over and over. But it gives you time to observe. Ina hums sometimes, low and steady, almost musical. You think it's just for herself, until you realize the baby nearby falls asleep every time she does it. The pitch, the rhythm, it's soothing, intentional. That's language too. Some fringe researchers theorize that Neanderthals might have developed lullabies, gentle vocalizations passed down through generations. Not songs in the modern sense, but tonal patterns with emotional impact. You don't have a word for it, but when Ina hums, the cave quiets. At lunch, a minor drama unfolds. One of the toddlers, barely walking and perpetually sticky, wanders over and tries to grab Kaon's share of marrow. Kaon grunts sharply. The toddler grunts back. You brace for impact, but then the child plops down beside him and starts mimicking his chewing rhythm. Everyone around chuckles. Even Kaon smiles. A little. You call that conflict resolution. As the day warms slightly, you move outside. The air is crisp, the snow reflecting what little sun peeks through the clouds. You walk with Ina along the river path, checking for signs of thaw. Along the way, she points to a bend in the ice where cracks are forming. She gestures with a flattened hand and a twisting wrist. That means it'll break soon. Keep the little ones back. You nod and return the gesture. A warning to pass on. Later, back at the cave, you hear Olga telling the story. She uses no full sentences, just short bursts of sound, gesture, and exaggerated motion. She slaps her chest, flails her arms like wings, crouches like a predator. The kids are riveted. Even you're watching. From what you can piece together, it's about a man who got tricked by a giant owl and ended up living in a tree for a year. Possibly as punishment, possibly as a lifestyle choice. You love these stories. Not because they make sense, they usually don't, but because they pull the group together. They teach, warn, entertain, and they require nothing but voice, face, and fingers. After sunset, you sit near the fire, carving a new knife handle. Ina joins you, settling in silently with a fistful of reeds. She starts braiding them into a strap. For what, you don't ask. She'll show you when it matters. You glance at her. She raises an eyebrow. Good knife, she asks. You nod. For Raka? She adds. You pause, then nod again. Strong handle, she says softly, not looking at you. She'll need it. You understand what she's not saying. Raka's partner, her last one, vanished during a hunt. No one knows if it was a fall, a predator, or just a decision to walk away. Things happen. Life moves. But now she's alone, with a newborn. You finish the knife handle. Ina finishes the strap, She ties it around the sheath and hands it to you. Give it to her. You do. No ceremony, just a gift. A tool. A gesture that says, you're not alone. Later, as the fire dims and people begin to settle into sleep, you hear Bruce snoring, loudly, off-key, like a mammoth with a sinus problem. You catch Ina's eye. She shakes her head and smirks. You grin. No words needed. You wake to a sound that shouldn't be there. One of those quiet, unnatural silences that somehow makes more noise than it should. The fire is still glowing faintly, and most of the tribe is still asleep. Furs piled high, faces half buried, breath misting into the cold air. But something in your body tenses before your mind catches up. Then you realize what it is. The absence of pain. Not a complete absence, this is the Ice Age after all, but a noticeable lack. Your right knee isn't throbbing, your neck isn't locked at an awkward angle, and your fingers? You can move them without feeling like your knuckles are filled with gravel. Of course, the peace doesn't last long. You shift to sit up, and immediately your left hip sends a reminder that it is, in fact, still completely unhappy with your lifestyle. There it is. All's right in the Neanderthal world. Pain is a lifestyle here, not a passing nuisance or a dramatic event. It's just part of the background music. You breathe through it like you breathe through smoke, like you breathe through hunger. It just is. Outside it snowed again. You can tell by the faint hush pressing down through the crack in the cave ceiling. No birds, no wind, just thick, sound-muffling cold. You creak your way to the entrance, every step reminding you that yesterday's spear-throwing, hide-hauling, rabbit-chasing activities came with consequences. Your shoulder clicks with each swing of your arm. Your lower back, a knot of tension that might outlive you. Ruth is already up. He's massaging his elbow, muttering under his breath, probably reliving the time he tried to wrestle a reindeer carcass up a hill alone. You tried to warn him. He said he was strong like glacier. Now he groans like fallen tree. Ina joins you both a few minutes later, limping ever so slightly. You give her a look. She gives you a look back. No words needed. You both understand the cost of doing anything in this body. This thick-boned, hard-muscled Neanderthal frame built for power, not longevity. Historians believe Neanderthals often lived with significant injuries. The fossil record shows evidence of healed fractures, damaged joints, even skull trauma. One famous skeleton, nicknamed Shanidar I, shows signs of multiple serious injuries. A crushed leg, a withered arm, partial blindness. And he lived. For years. That kind of survival doesn't happen by accident. You wonder about Shanidar sometimes. About how he moved, how his people cared for him. Because the truth is, if someone breaks a leg here, it's not a death sentence. Not automatically. The group adapts. People step in. You've seen it. Kaon has that stiff left leg that never healed right. He leans on his carved stick, but he still contributes. Telling stories, teaching flint work, warming children with his body at night. No one asks him to do more. No one tells him to do less. He's here. That's enough. Olga's hearing is nearly gone. You often see her squinting when people speak. But her hands? Still strong. Still steady. She can gut a fish faster than you can blink, and her stitches don't unravel even after weeks of wear. Pain doesn't disqualify you here. It just adjusts your role. You sit beside Bruce on the stone bench near the fire. He's rubbing something into his shoulder, a mixture of bare fat and crushed root. Smells terrible. Works decently. You take a bit and smear it across your knees. The cold makes everything worse. Your joints feel like rusted hinges. Sometimes you think they creak audibly. Ina sits down with a steaming bowl of bone broth. She pushes it toward you without looking. You were limping yesterday, she says softly. You shrug. Drink, she insists. You drink. It helps. Not much, but enough. The children are less affected. They bounce around like wind spirits, chasing one another across the snow-slick floor. One of them, barely old enough to speak, falls flat on his face. He bursts into tears. Olga scoops him up, blows on his scraped nose, and drops him into a fur pile like a bag of potatoes. He's giggling again in seconds. Ah, to be young and mostly cartilage. After breakfast, Ina pulls you aside. Want to check the traps with me? She asks. You nod. Slowly. Everything hurts, but movement helps more than stillness. You've learned that the hard way. Sit too long and your muscles lock up like stone. Keep moving and at least you stay limber. Outside, the snow is deeper than you expected. Your boots crunch down into it with each step, sending shocks up your legs. You wince. Ina notices. Try walking backward, she says with a smirk. You do. She's right. It helps, slightly. Old trick, she says. Kaon taught me. You keep walking, backward and forward, checking snares. Most are empty. One has a dead vole. Tiny, pathetic, barely worth the string it's tied to. But you take it. Waste nothing. You stop by the hot spring on the way back, a rare luxury in your landscape. A shallow, steaming pool where snow refuses to land. You dip your hands into the warm water and feel your bones sigh in relief. Ina soaks a strip of cloth and wraps it around your forearm. You twisted this last week, she says. Still swollen. You nod. Why didn't you say anything? She asks. You raise an eyebrow. When do we ever say anything? She laughs. Not loudly, but warmly. You both soak your hands until your fingers wrinkle, then trudge back through the snow. It's still coming down, soft and slow. The kind of snow that blankets the world and makes it feel, if only briefly, like nothing can reach you. Back at the cave, Raka is dozing with her newborn curled on her chest. The fire's crackling again. Bruth is working on a new spearhead, Kaon is snoring, and Oga is boiling something that smells like pine and regret. You settle beside the fire, stretch your legs, and grimace. Ina sees it. Hurting? You nod. She hands you a warm stone and a strip of fur. Wrap it, press it here. You obey. It helps. You look around at your people, all aching, all carrying old injuries, all still breathing, still doing, still being. A fringe theory floats around that Neanderthals had a concept of shared pain, that when one hurt, others hurt too. Not metaphorically, but communally. You feel that sometimes, in the way Bruth flinches when Kaon drops something, in how Ina watches you walk, adjusting her pace to match your limp, in how you instinctively press a hand to your side when Raka shifts uncomfortably. You don't have medicine. Not really. But you have each other. And in a world this cold, that's its own kind of healing. The first sign of trouble isn't the howl in the distance, it's the silence that comes before it. You're outside the cave, gathering kindling when the forest stops moving. No birds, no wind. Even the snow seems to pause mid-fall. You hold your breath and look to Ina, who's crouched nearby stripping bark from a pine branch. She freezes too, her eyes narrowing, her posture going still in a way that means only one thing. Something's watching. Then, the howl. Low, long, not quite wolf. Not quite human. It echoes from the trees, vibrating through the soles of your feet. Ina looks at you. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't need to. Neighbors. You rush back to the cave, hearts thudding. It's not fear, not exactly. It's the weight of understanding. You've known for weeks they were out there. Tracks in the snow, broken branches, bones left in strange patterns. Another band, not your own. Close enough to share hunting grounds. Close enough to be dangerous. Territory here is everything. Some historians believe Neanderthal groups avoided one another intentionally. Territories spread wide with enough space to reduce friction. Others suggest they gathered at times for mating or trade. But in your experience, when others come too close, they either want something or they're running from something worse. Inside the cave, you alert the others, quietly, calmly. There's no panic. Everyone knows the drill. You've had visitors before, not always violent. Not always friendly either. Kaon hobbles toward the back of the cave, muttering under his breath. He always says the same thing when this happens. Be ready. Be still. Bruth grabs the better spears. Ina hands out flint knives. Even Drak is given a sharpened stick. He holds it tightly, his mouth pressed into a hard line. The howl doesn't come again, but the unease it brings stays thick in the air. You set a watcher at the entrance. Ruthka, the quiet boy who never speaks but sees everything. He crouches near the stone pile and blends in with the shadows. You know he'll whistle if anything moves out there. You don't post a second guard. Too many standing watch looks like you're expecting trouble, and that makes other tribes nervous. Nervous tribes are dangerous tribes. You return to your spot by the fire. Everyone keeps their eyes low but their ears sharp. Dinner is eaten quietly. No stories tonight, No jokes, just the low sound of chewing and the occasional crack of a bone in the fire. Later, Ina pulls you aside. "They're watching," she says. You nod. "You saw movement earlier, too. A flicker behind a tree, a glint of bone or stone, maybe even an eye catching the light." "What do we do?" you ask. She shrugs. "Depends what they want. Food?" She hesitates. "Maybe, or fire, or space." You both know what space means. Territory is invisible, but sacred. Yours stretches from the edge of the frozen creek to the black pine grove 3 hills east. Beyond that, you don't go, and they don't come. Usually. But winter changes the rules. Food is scarcer, shelter is vital, and sometimes desperation speaks louder than tradition. That night, you double the fire. Not for warmth, but for visibility. You want them to see you. You want them to know this place is occupied, guarded, alive. You sit closer to Ina than usual. Her hand brushes yours occasionally, not by accident. There's comfort in touch, especially now. The next day, tracks, fresh ones, just outside the cave. 2 adults, 1 child, smaller than your group. Maybe just scouting, maybe more. You follow the prints a short distance. They don't try to hide. In fact, they lead you to a small clearing with a pile of offerings. 3 smoked fish, a chipped hand axe, and a tightly bound bundle of dried grass, possibly herbs. A gift. Maybe. You don't touch it. Not yet. You return to the cave, relay what you found. The group murmurs. Gifts are rare. A sign of peace? Or a trap? You've seen both. Ruth wants to return a gift. Ina disagrees. Not yet, she says. Let them wait. That night, no one sleeps deeply. You dream of strangers crouched beside your fire, eating your food, wearing your furs. You wake angry. In the morning, Ina and Olga go out together. They inspect the offering again, leave a simple counteroffer. A few cooked bones, some coals wrapped in moss, and a broken necklace made of fox teeth. A test. By dusk, it's gone. No new tracks appear for days. Life resumes, but tension lingers. You think about them. These other people. They breathe the same air, drink the same river. Their bones are shaped like yours. But they're not your group. They don't grunt the same way. They don't smell familiar. They are different. And difference is danger. But not always. You remember once, years ago, when another group passed through. They stayed 3 nights. One of their elders was sick. Your group fed them, warmed them, gave them space to rest, and when they left you with fire-hardened spears and new songs. You can still hum one of them. Ina does sometimes when she's braiding hides. Maybe this group will be the same. Or maybe they'll wait until your guard is down and try to take what's yours. There's no way to know. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals practiced diplomacy, raiding, or something in between. You suspect the truth is simple. Sometimes you fight, sometimes you share, depending on how hungry you are. The next week passes in cautious normalcy. The other group never returns. But the memory of them, of their tracks, their fish, their silent message, never fully leaves. The tribe adjusts. You watch the forest with sharper eyes. Ina checks the traps more often. Ruth carries his spear even when gathering roots. And yet, the necklace they left, the fox-tooth one, Olga wears it now. Around her wrist. A reminder, maybe. A connection. A warning. Territory is a shifting thing, claimed not just by blood but by memory. And this winter the boundaries are blurring. You're standing at the edge of a shallow grave. Your hands are coated in damp earth, cold clinging beneath your fingernails, the scent of crushed moss and old stone heavy in your nose. The fire is behind you, flickering low. The group is silent. Raka's baby didn't survive the night. There were no warning signs. She fed well, slept warmly, whimpered just like any other infant. But this morning, she was still. Still and cool, her tiny chest unmoving beneath the wrap of fur, her lips slightly parted in a question she never got to ask. No one screamed, no one wailed. You all just knew. And so you dig. Kaon hums softly as he presses a flat stone into the bottom of the hollow, like setting the foundation of something sacred. Olga sprinkles a handful of ochre across the soil. It stains red as it touches the frost, like blood but brighter, almost alive. Ina places the body in the earth, wrapped in the softest rabbit skin you had, along with a tiny carved bone bead. No one speaks. You don't need to. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals performed formal burials. Some skeletons have been found placed in shallow graves surrounded by flowers, ochre, and tools. Others seem left where they fell. But this is deliberate. Ritual, even if you don't call it that. You press dirt gently over the bundle, not with force, with care. The way you'd cover embers for the night, a gesture both protective and final. Bruth stands a little apart, head bowed. Drock clutches his necklace, fingering the sharp edge of a tooth. Ina kneels beside the mound, drawing a spiral in the soil. Her fingertip trembles slightly as she does. The sky above is gray, heavy with the promise of more snow. You don't hurry. You let the silence stretch long and wide, like the world itself is pausing with you. When you return to the cave, the air feels different. Still warm, still familiar, but changed. You sit near the fire, carving absent-mindedly at a bit of wood. You're not making anything, just moving your hands. Everyone moves slower now, softer. Ina starts a pot of broth without being asked. Raka lies curled on her side, her face buried in furs. No one disturbs her. Kaon begins to hum again, the same low tone he used at the gravesite. You recognize it now. Not a song, exactly, but a rhythm, a marking of time, a call to memory. You think back to another burial, one you barely remember. A hunter lost to a fall, legs shattered, head bleeding. You buried him near the pine grove and left 3 stones in a triangle. Olga said triangles keep spirits from wandering. You never asked her what happened if they did. There's something in the way Neanderthals handled death, unflinching, but not without tenderness. You don't avert your eyes, you don't hide from it, you acknowledge it, you make space for it. Even the children understand. One of them places a feather on the hearthstone without a word. A gray one. Probably from that stubborn raven that circles the cave mouth each morning. You don't know if it's a tribute or just something pretty, but it matters. Later that day, you catch Ina grinding ochre near the cave's back wall. She uses a flat rock and a circular motion, creating a powder so fine it clings to the air like smoke. You approach quietly. "What's it for?" you ask. She doesn't answer right away. Then softly, marking. "Marking what?" She gestures to the cave wall, a blank section, blackened with smoke, but untouched by drawings. She dips her fingers into the powder and presses her hand to the stone. Leaves a print, a reddish bloom, then another, and another. A row of handprints, all the same size, all hers. You add yours beside hers. Your fingers are larger, broader. The red sticks to your skin, feels like paint, or blood, or memory. Some believe Neanderthals used these prints as signatures. Others say they were warnings or prayers. You don't know. You just know it feels right. The rest of the group watches quietly. One by one they approach. Kaon, Bruth, even Raka. Each presses a hand to the wall. The line grows. No one speaks. You've made fire before. You've hunted mammoths, outrun wolves, carved spears from stone. But this small act of color on stone feels like the most human thing you've ever done. That night, the fire burns high. Not because you're cold, but because you're holding something back. The tribe gathers tighter, closer. There's no feast, no celebration, but there is unity. Strength braided from shared silence. Ina sits beside you, her hands still stained red. She had a name, she says suddenly. You turn. The baby, she clarifies. Raka whispered it to her, never said it out loud. You wait. It was Alu. You nod slowly. The name sits heavy and light at the same time. You both sit there, staring into the fire. A fringe theory among researchers suggests Neanderthals may have carried the memories of the dead through repeated storytelling, gesture, or markings. Not mythology, just remembrance. You believe it, because even now, as the flames crackle and flicker across the ochre-stained cave walls, Alu is here. In the silence, in the print, in the way Raka turns her head slightly when Kaon hums that melody again. In the morning, the snow has stopped, the grave is covered, a light dusting, gentle and white. You and Ina walk past it in silence, heads bowed. She presses a small stone to the mound. So do you. A quiet tradition, a mark that says you were here. You don't cry, not because you're too strong, but because grief here is carried in actions, not tears. You dig, you mark, you remember. And then slowly you go on. The first time you see them, they don't look like much. They're standing across the valley, Three figures against a wind-swept ridge, unmoving as stones, silhouettes softened by snowfall. At first you think they're animals, maybe even stunted elk, until one of them lifts a hand in the universal gesture of not a threat. You freeze. Ina stands beside you, narrowing her eyes. Bruth steps forward, lowering his spear but not dropping it. Drock, for once, doesn't speak. The entire group has been drawn to the edge of the clearing, watching these strangers like wolves might watch another pack. They're different. You can tell from here. Taller, narrower, not built like you, more delicate in the limbs, with smaller faces, finer bones, and something odd in the way they carry themselves, like the world owes them something. They wear stitched hides like you, but tighter, cleaner, almost decorative. One of them has a necklace made of shells. Shells from the sea. You haven't seen the sea. Historians believe Neanderthals and Homo sapiens overlapped for thousands of years, sharing parts of Europe and Asia during frigid Ice Age centuries. But whether that overlap was peaceful, hostile, or somewhere between depends on where you dig, and what stories the bones are willing to tell. The strangers come no closer. Ina squints at them, then makes a small motion with her hand, fingers curled, palm out, a sign of cautious greeting. One of them mirrors it. Then they back away, slowly, until the snowfall eats their forms and the ridge is empty again. Nobody speaks for a long time. That night, the fire is loud with speculation. Keon claims he's seen their kind before. Many winters ago, though no one knows if that's literal or just his way of saying, this feels familiar. Oga mutters about thin ones who steal babies and bones. Drock says they look like ghosts. You and Ina exchange glances, unsure what to feel, because the truth is, they didn't look dangerous. But they didn't look safe either. The next day, you find tracks. Small feet, narrow heels. The prints twist through the southern ravine, stopping briefly near the fire pit you used last summer. Someone crouched there, left behind a piece of worked wood, long, smooth, carved at the edge into a curve. A tool, but not one you recognize. Bruth suggests burning it. Oga wants to keep it. Ina decides it stays, for now. You turn it in your hands that evening, watching how the firelight dances across the polished grain. It's beautiful in a way that makes you feel slightly inadequate. Not because it's better, just different, like it came from another world. A few days pass. The strangers don't return, but they stay in your mind. You dream about them, you see their faces, not quite like yours, but not alien either. Their eyes are familiar, their expressions unreadable. In the dream, they don't speak. They just look at you, then vanish into the snow like smoke. You wake uneasy. Ina feels it too. She starts packing tools differently, more organized. She knots her hair higher, like it might make her taller. You both sharpen more spears than usual. Are you preparing for friendship or war? No one says it aloud, but the question hangs in every breath. Another week and they return. This time, closer. 2 women and a man. They appear in the morning mist like something conjured. They walk upright, slow and deliberate, stopping just beyond spear-throwing range. One of the women wears a belt of beads. The man carries a bundle wrapped in hide. Ina steps forward. So do you. The woman with beads raises her hands. She makes sounds, not grunts, not clicks, but actual words. Fluid, melodic, strange. You don't understand, but you don't need to. She lowers the bundle, opens it, and reveals her offering. Dried meat. A napped blade with an unusual ridge down its center, and what looks like a pouch made of stitched fish skin. You stare. You're not even sure how you'd work with something so delicate. Ina kneels slowly and lays out your counteroffer. A bundle of bone awls, 2 strips of smoked hair, and 1 of Oga's flint scrapers. The strangers examine the items carefully. The beaded woman nods. The man smiles. Then they go. Just like that. Trade. Peaceful. The cave is buzzing that night. Not loudly, Neanderthals don't buzz, but it's in the way Keon hums as he fixes his walking stick, and how Oga passes you an extra bowl of stew, in the flick of Ina's eyes when she sits beside you. You study the blade again. The sapien's design is unfamiliar, sharper, maybe, more refined, but oddly brittle. You test its edge on hide and find it slices better than yours, but chips faster too. Different priorities, different problems, different people. Historians debate endlessly. Did Neanderthals learn from sapiens? Did we teach them? Did we fall in love with them? Fight them? Fade because of them? You don't have answers. Only feelings, curiosity, caution, a tiny gnawing unease. You wonder if they're watching you now. From the ridge, from the trees, you wonder what they think of you. The next week brings more visits. No more trades, just appearances. They come and go like whispers. Drock calls them the soft walkers. The name sticks. One day, Ina finds footprints by the stream, intertwined with yours, as if someone had followed you, walked where you walked, stood where you stood. Not violent, but close. The next night, you wake to the soft sound of humming. Not Kaon's melody. Not a lullaby, you know. A new one. From outside the cave, you crawl to the entrance, heart pounding. Snow falls in gentle flakes. The world is still. And just at the edge of firelight, gone in a blink, you see a figure stepping back into the darkness. Not a ghost, just a soft walker, watching, listening, maybe learning. You lie awake for hours, Ina beside you, both of you pretending not to be afraid. By dawn, you've made a decision. Whatever happens next, friendship, conflict, something between, you're not going back to the way things were. Because the world has changed. Because now you know you're not the only ones. Because the soft walkers are real. And they are coming. They don't come back. Not the next day, or the next, or the one after that. The ridge is empty. The woods are quiet. Even the prints near the river begin to fade under snow and time. It's as if the soft walkers were never there at all. A whisper in the forest, a shared dream. But your tribe feels their absence like a missing limb. You wait. Not actively. There's work to do, food to gather, fires to tend, but always with one ear tilted toward the edge of the world. Always listening. Until eventually, the listening turns into silence. And the silence turns into something worse. Forgetting. Not completely. Not all at once. But slowly, like frostbite creeping through a toe. You stop checking the ridge so often. Ina hums less when she works. Bruth sharpens his own tools again, muttering that their blades were too brittle anyway. Even Kaon stops saying, "They'll come again." One day he just doesn't say it, and no one corrects him. And one by one, the soft walkers vanish from the trees, from your conversations, from your thoughts. But something else doesn't vanish, your people. One morning, you wake up and the fire's not lit. Strange, because Olga always tends it first. You stretch your sore limbs, shuffle to the hearth, and stop. She's still lying in her furs, not breathing, cold, still, gone. You stand there unmoving, the silence growing thick around you. Then you kneel. Then Ina is beside you. Then Kaon and Bruth and even Drock. Olga has been part of this group longer than memory. She was already old when you were small. She made the best bone needles. She sang the weirdest songs. She once scared off a pack of hyenas by hurling burning dung at them and howling like a dying elk. Now she's just gone. The group moves into burial mode. Quiet. Focused. You choose the gravesite. Under the overhang near the sleeping roots, where the soil stays loose year-round. Ina gathers ochre. Bruth finds her favorite scraper. Drock picks a bit of her hair, tangles it into a thread, and ties it around his wrist. There's no wailing, no tearing of clothes, just stillness. Respect. When you cover her with soil, someone starts humming. Not Khan this time. Ina. A soft, rising tone. Something she learned maybe from the soft walkers. And as the wind picks up and the snow falls heavier, something inside you shifts. You realize something that had been gnawing at the edges of your heart for days. Your people are disappearing. Olga is gone. Kaon coughs more now, sleeps longer. Bruth's knee doesn't bend anymore. He's slower than he used to be, and he knows it. Ina's hair is grayer, yours too, probably. Drock, once just a loudmouthed child, is now as tall as you. His shoulders are broadening. His voice has dropped. He's taken over watching the traps. He doesn't ask for help anymore. The world around you, the one you fought to understand, to survive in, is not staying the same. And then there are the signs. You don't want to admit them at first, but they're there. The prey is fewer. The herds that once came every season now pass you by in the distance. Tracks vanish instead of deepen. The river freezes sooner, thaws slower. The bones you find in old kill sites are broken in new ways, not yours. Tools, but different. Smarter, more precise. There are more soft walker signs now, but no soft walkers. And you feel it, that something's shifting, that something's ending. Historians today call it replacement, a sterile word, one with graphs and models and carbon dates. But you know it better. You call it fading. You're not being pushed out by violence, not yet. You're just being replaced. They move faster. They make more. They speak strange sounds that pass faster than gestures. They survive in places you would avoid. And your group, your people, is shrinking. You start counting. One day, there were 23 of you. Now 17, then 15, then 12. Not from battles, just time. Weather, missteps, illness, a river crossing gone wrong, a cave collapse. And once when you returned from hunting, one of your oldest, Tarn, the carver, was simply missing. No tracks, no blood, just gone. Maybe he walked into the snow, maybe he followed the soft walkers, maybe he just stopped. You begin dreaming of firelight and strange voices, of walking alone through forests where every tree feels like it's watching you, of being the last. Ina dreams too, because she wakes gasping sometimes. She never says what she sees, but she holds you tighter these nights, not for warmth, but for remembrance. One evening, you find her near the ochre wall. The old handprints are faded now. Smoke, time, and damp have blurred the edges. She presses her palm to the wall. Red dust clings to her skin. Again, she says. So they'll remember. You join her. Together you repaint your hands one after another. Your palms, your fingers. Khan joins, and Bruth, even Drock. The children, too. You leave a dozen new prints beside the old ones. And somehow, it's not for you. It's for the ones who'll come after. The ones who might pass through this cave in 50 winters and wonder who you were. You want them to see, to know, that you were here, that you mattered, that you loved, that you lived. Later that night, as snow buries the fire pit and the cave grows quiet, you lie with Ina beneath your furs and whisper, for the first time ever, "We're ending." She doesn't respond, but her fingers find yours and squeeze gently, as if to say, "I know." And outside in the dark, the soft walkers pass quietly through the forest. Not enemies, not friends, just after. The cave is quieter now. You still wake up to the fire, still shuffle into the day with stiff joints and the cold clinging to your ribs like a stubborn bruise. You still chew your dried meat, still scrape hides, still scan the tree line for movement, for trouble, for hope. But the energy in the cave has changed. It's not grief, not quite. That came already. It's what follows grief, the stillness, the hollow, the strange quiet that makes your ears strain to hear anything at all. There are only 9 of you left now. 9 out of the 24 that once filled the cave with breath and footsteps and heat. The fire feels bigger. The cave, smaller. Kaon has stopped walking. He sits near the entrance all day now, wrapped in furs, humming low notes that never rise or fall. Sometimes you think he's talking to someone long gone. Sometimes you think he's remembering a time when this place was louder. You don't interrupt him. Instead, you walk. You move through the forest alone now more often than not. Ina comes with you sometimes, but even she has taken to longer rests and fewer words. You still talk, just less. You find a bone. It's small. Not animal, not from your group. You know your group. You've buried your group. This one is unfamiliar, human, delicate. You dig around the site carefully. The snow is soft, the soil loose. You find a few more bones, charred slightly at the ends, and near them a tool. Not yours. Too smooth. Too thin. You recognize the work. Soft walkers. You mark the spot with 3 stones, not to claim it, but to remember it. Then you return home. The next day 2 soft walkers arrive. They don't come quietly this time. They step into your clearing openly. One is a young woman, the other older, maybe a parent, or maybe just older. They wear layered furs, beautifully stitched, decorated with beads and plant dyes. Their eyes are bright and wide, scanning everything. They carry nothing but open hands. Ina greets them. You stand behind her. There are no spears raised, no grunts of warning, just a kind of cautious watching, the kind you've grown good at. They speak. You don't understand the words, but you feel the intention. The young woman points to the cave, then to her heart, then to you. Then she kneels, a gesture, one of respect. Ina kneels too, and you realize this is it, the last thread, not of resistance, but of remembrance. You let them in. That night, the soft walkers sit near your fire. They don't eat much. They're polite, delicate, strange. The older one shows you a tool, a blade with a handle made from horn, set with resin. It's beautiful. You pass it between you. Bruth whistles softly, impressed despite himself. Drock asks them a question. A gesture. A shape traced in the air that means, where? They point southeast. They say a word you don't know. Then another. Their mouths move faster than yours. Their hands flutter like birds. They speak more in 10 minutes than you have all week. You can't keep up, but you understand enough. They've come to learn, or maybe to witness. They stay 3 days. They help you gather roots. They help Ina boil fish skin into glue. They watch Kaon, and Kaon watches them. And one morning you find the young one sitting beside him, mimicking his humming perfectly. He laughs. The first time in weeks. Then they're gone again. No promises. No warnings. Just gone. You look at the fire, the ochre on the wall, the tools stacked neatly beside the hearth, and you wonder, who will remember this? Will your fire be found by another? Will your handprint still echo across the stone? One day, a small group appears on the ridge. Soft walkers, 4 of them. They do not come down. You do not call up, but you both stand still long enough to know you've been seen. A fragile truce. Time passes. Bruth doesn't wake one morning. His body still, his face oddly peaceful. You bury him next to Oga, next to the child, next to Tarn. The grave field grows. There are only 5 of you now. Kaon passes in the night, humming until the final breath slips out. He dies sitting up. Ina brushes his eyes closed and lays a hand on his chest. You don't cry, but you ache in a place deeper than bone. A few weeks later, you feel it. The weight of silence too thick for one cave. You talk with Ina. No grunts. Real words, as many as you can manage. It's time, not to surrender, to move. The soft walkers have water, game, fire. But more than that, they have presence. They are multiplying. They are staying. You do not ask to join them. But one morning, you simply start walking southeast. Ina follows. Drock too. 1 child, 1 elder, 1 fire still burning in your hands. You don't know if you're the last, but you feel it. The end of the beginning. And somewhere in the snow behind you, the cave breathes its final smoke into the sky. You do not turn back. Historians today debate where the last Neanderthals stood. Which coast, which cave, which field of snow or glacial ridge. But you know, because it wasn't just one place, it was everywhere. And it wasn't a collapse, it was a fade, a handprint on a cave wall, a shape in the mist, a face in a mirror. You make your way slowly across the frostbitten plain, each step a negotiation between memory and motion. The wind isn't cruel today, it whispers instead of roars, tugging lightly at the furs wrapped around your shoulders. You glance back once, just once. The cave is gone now, swallowed by distance and snow, hidden behind the curve of the land. You'll never see it again. You know that. Ina walks ahead. Her shoulders are narrower than before. She used to stride with purpose, like she was always chasing a thought just out of reach. Now her pace is slower, measured, still strong, still deliberate, but different. Drock walks behind, taller than you now. His hair has darkened, his expression hardened. There's less child in his eyes and more of the world, more of the hard knowledge of how quickly a tribe can vanish and how cold the ground feels when you bury another name in it. The youngest among you, the child of one of the last mothers, now orphaned and quiet, clings to Ina's side, silent as a shadow. And you? You are the echo that keeps moving forward. The landscape changes subtly as you walk. The trees grow thicker, the snow softens. You pass a ridge marked with handprints not your own. Ochre, a different style. You touch one as you pass. It's smaller than yours. The soft walkers have been here. You begin to see them more often. Not always directly, a wisp of smoke behind a hill. A sharpened stick lodged in a tree, footprints that vanish mid-path. But they're there, all around you now, watching, listening. You come to a river one day, wide, gray, cracked with thin ice. Drock points across it, a cluster of shapes on the far bank. People. Not yours, but not strange anymore either. You wait, you do not call out. Eventually one of them approaches the river's edge. A woman, tall and broad-shouldered with a face lined like old bark. She raises a hand. Not a wave. A greeting? Or maybe a question. You raise your hand back. They don't invite you across, but they don't turn away either. That night, you build your fire on the near side of the river. You eat what's left of the smoked fish, tear the last of your root bundle, and sit close to Ina as the snow begins to fall again. You don't speak of the cave. You don't speak of Kaon or Bruth or Oga. You sit with the silence, letting it wrap around you like another fur. Later, when the child falls asleep, Ina turns to you. "We'll stay here," she says. "For now?" She doesn't answer. In the days that follow, the soft walkers bring gifts, quietly, always at night. A clay pot with warm broth, a flint knife with a carved bone handle, a woven netting of dried reeds. You return the gesture. A necklace made of crow feathers, a pouch of moss-lined tinder, one of your last good spears. There are no words, but there is understanding. They do not fear you, not anymore. They don't ask you to teach them, but you see them watch. You notice one of them mimicking the way Ina scrapes fat from hide. Another hums the tune Khan used to hum while sharpening tools. They trace your footprints in the snow. They absorb. You begin to see the blend. A child wearing a soft walker tunic, but with a Neanderthal-style pouch hung from their belt. A woman sharpening a blade with your angle, your motion. One evening, you watch a man crouch by the fire and turn meat using a bone prong, the same kind Oga invented seasons ago. You smile. You don't know what to call this. Not conquest, not extinction. Something quieter, more fluid, like dye soaking into cloth. One morning, Drak walks off without telling anyone. You find him a few hours later, standing at a ridge, looking down at a soft walker camp. They haven't seen him. He's just watching. Not with fear, not with anger, with curiosity. "You going down there?" you ask. He shrugs. "Would you come back?" He shrugs again. You nod. That's enough. He doesn't go that day, but you know it's coming. One of you will join them, then another, and then maybe no one remembers who came from where. Weeks pass, seasons shift. The wind changes direction. You grow slower. Your hands ache in the mornings. Your knees stiffen after too much sitting. Ina moves less now. The child plays in the snow, drawing lines and stick figures. You watch her. She doesn't remember the cave, only this place, the river. The blended tribe on the far side. The old is vanishing, and the new is rising. One afternoon, you find a boy, half your height, with big eyes and quick fingers, sitting by your fire. He's soft walker, mostly, but he holds one of your old flint knives. He traces the edge with fascination. He looks at you and asks, "What is it?" You realize he doesn't recognize it as a tool, just as an artifact. "It's how we lived," you say. He smiles. "That's weird." You laugh, and that's when you know. It's done. Your people are not erased, they are remembered. In the curve of a jaw, in the swing of a hand axe, in the genes of children who hum the old songs without knowing where they came from. You were not replaced. You were absorbed, changed, blended, preserved. You rise slowly from the fire and walk to the river. You stare across it, knowing you'll never cross again, not with your body, but with your stories, your bones, your blood. And as the sun dips low and turns the river gold, you whisper a name that no one will understand. Your own. The name you were never given but always carried. The one etched in soot and stone and the hollow of every cave you ever called home. You whisper it to the wind, and the wind carries it forward. Forward and forward. Into the centuries to come. Into memory. Into bone. Into bone. Into us. And now as you rest, let the story fade gently into the shadows of your mind. The fire is down to glowing coals. The wind outside is soft, curling around the cave walls like a lullaby in a language long forgotten. The tribe is sleeping, all of them. Their breath is steady, their bodies warm beneath the furs. Your hands, once calloused and strong, now lie still. Your tools rest beside you, their edges dulled from a life of use. But you don't need them anymore. You've done enough. You've told your story. You've left your mark. Somewhere far away, in a future you'll never see, someone carries your fire forward quietly, unknowingly, because of the choices you made, the love you gave, the life you lived. So breathe deeply now. Let the cold outside be just another sound. Let your bones relax into the stone beneath you. The world has changed, but you were part of it. You were here. And that is enough. Sleep, traveler. You've walked far. You've seen the dawns of memory. Now let the night hold you gently. Let your breath slow. Let your story rest, and in the stillness drift into silence.